Hi guys, my name is Lauren Adkins, and today I'm going to do a tutorial on how to create a pivot table in Microsoft Excel. Pivot tables are one of Excel's most helpful features. A pivot table allows you to extract specific data from any size data set and look at it in multiple ways. It acts as a summary of a data set in a condensed way. Tables consist of rows, columns, data fields, and sheets. These components and headers can be moved around in a pivot table, showing data in multiple ways and answering various questions you may have about the data. It's particularly a useful function when working with larger, more detailed data sets, which oftentimes is an issue that organizations and employees face. I'm going to show you how to create a pivot table based off of a simple spreadsheet. As you can see here, I have a pre-existing data set that I will work with to show you with this tutorial. This particular data show information about buildings in a small town. The far left column, right here, shows the category of building, meaning either a house, a small business, or a large business. This next column here shows the color of the building. The next column shows the number of occupants in that specific building. And then here in our fourth column, column D, we can see the zip code of that building, giving us a location. All right, now let's start to make our pivot table. To do so, go ahead and highlight all the data. So to do that, you just click on the top left cell, which for this data set is category, and drag it to the bottom right cell. And as you can see, all of our data here is highlighted. Then, with all the data highlighted as it is, go up to the Data tab right here, click it, and then you'll see here the option to do pivot table. So the best thing to do here is actually to click this little arrow drop down where you have the option to either create an automatic pivot table or a manual pivot table. We're going to click create manual pivot table. And as you can see, then you'll be prompted to verify the data you'd like to analyze and the location you would like the pivot table to go to. So as you can see here, the location is a new worksheet of this workbook, and the data we're using is A1, which is this, to D16, which is the last cell, so that's correct. We're going to hit OK. And now it takes us to a second sheet. Okay, so as you can see, the pivot table is on a new sheet with the values area box, as well as the pivot table builder on the right. So this is the values area box. This is the pivot table builder. I'll drag this over so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, so now that we have our pivot table builder up, you can see that we have the 4 column headers under field name, and I can click those and drag them around to these various boxes as so. Okay, now let's play around with the data a little bit. If I want to see a pivot table with all of my data, I can click the box for all of these field names. So as you can see in our values area, there's the color, the number of occupants, the location. We can't exactly see the title of the type of building, and I'll show you why later. Okay, so in this bottom right corner of our pivot table builder, we can see that the value box can give us the options to show functions like sum, count, average, total, etc. So that can be a really helpful feature if you're looking to kind of do, find the average number of something, find the total number of something without having to actually type in the function yourself. So let's say we want to see something simple like the sum of the number of occupants in each type of building. So first, we want to check the boxes and the names of the fields that we want. So in this case, that would be category here, a number of occupants. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck building color and location because those two we do not need. Now, as you can see, the only 2 highlighted are category, number of occupants, just like we want. So we want the row label to be category so we can look at each category separately. So here we have count of category. That's going to switch to category because if you remember, everything in the values is not just the name of the field itself. It's going to be either, like I said, the sum, the average, the count, something like that. So now that we have category as our row label, we're going to mess around with the number of occupants. So that's the value we're looking at in order to get the sum. So that means it needs to go into the value box. And it's already there, which is great. Okay, now you can see, sorry, we have the row labels, house, large business, and small business, and then the total number of occupants for each of those. And that can be really helpful because that wasn't represented on our original data set, but now we can see it here on our pivot table. Okay, so if we wanted to look at something a little more complicated, we can introduce another field name into the mix. Let's go ahead and check the box for building color to throw that in there. Okay, now it automatically put that in as a new row label, which isn't exactly where we want it. So if we leave the category and the number of occupants where they are and move the color to the column labels box up here, you can see it changes the pivot table again. This table now shows us the number of occupants per type of building for each color. For example, if we wanted to know how many people live in brown houses, we could go to house, brown, and we know it would be 3. If we wanted to know how many people in the town work or live in a pink building, we can look at the grand total of pink buildings, which is here, 68. Another great function of pivot tables is the filter feature. As you can see next to the row and column labels, there's a little arrow, these two right here. If you click the arrow, it gives the option to click on each individual title. So if you uncheck the box for large businesses, for example, it disappears from the pivot table. Now we have a more condensed data set. Maybe we don't want to see the large businesses, but let's say we want to see it again. Just click it and it reappears. This tool can be useful if you want to look at specific areas of the data set that you're working with without having to sift through the entire spreadsheet. Now, as I said earlier, pivot tables can act as a super useful and helpful tool to summarize data, search for specific data sets, analyze data to make decisions, and more. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out my video about the VLOOKUP function.